Good evening, Sam.
Good morning, Mallory.
And welcome to another episode of Nobody Leaves, the podcast where we are eternally trapped with each other until death do us part. Sam, how's it been going?
It's been going good. How's it been going with you?
It's been going awesome. I have been chilling, vibing, enjoying the warmer weather that's been coming by. I've been sick of the cold. I've been going outside. I've been breathing fresh air. You know, I've been living again. It was a good week to watch a Miyazaki movie. I felt very aligned with that kind of vibe.
Yes, I have been taking advantage of this podcast this week because I wanted to do some Ghibli research for a video I'm working on. And so I said, why not kill two birds with one stone so I can spend more time in the sun and not cooped up inside watching pigs fly. Is that why it's good? Is that why he's a pig? When pigs fly. I didn't put that together until just now.
That's crazy. We gotta get into it.
I've known about this movie for years.
Well, but I don't know if "when pigs fly" is a saying in Japanese, so I don't know if they made the connection on their end. But breaking metaphors, breaking news. We may have finally made this connection.
It only took 27 years.
But yeah, have you been watching anything this week?
I've been watching a whole bunch of stuff. I finished Severance. I think I published our short about a conversation we had a few weeks ago about how Severance was not very good this season, like a minute and a half before the finale came out. Let me tell you, the finale was pretty good. So, whoops.
Funny. Yeah,
That's
feel
fine.
free to make like negative hate comments on the short. Feel free to tell Sam that he's wrong about his opinion.
I wasn't wrong.
Funny.
It was a very uneven season. However, the finale, really, really good. That show has a specialty that I am picking up on now 2 seasons in, which it has really good like final shots, like where the camera ends is just like very satisfying.
You mean like scene to scene, or do you mean like at the end of an episode?
The end of a season. Like, it leaves you with an image that's, like, going to stick in your mind for, like, the years to come. Because it's going to take forever for a new episode to come out.
Wow. Gotcha. Yeah, it's, like, very, well, what would you say the production is like on the show? Like, do you feel like it is going to take longer than, like, a normal show, or is it, like, a typical
Well, it took
drama?
3 years between the first season and the second season, but part of that was because of the writer's strike.
I see.
So it's not clear. We haven't had a normal, like, couple of years of, like, Hollywood production in quite a while. Because it went from, like, COVID into the strikes. Now we've got the fires. And so it's like, as someone who subscribes to, like, a unlimited movie pass style thing, I'm always trying to go to the theater as much as possible, right? It's been a little tough. There's been a couple of like really uneven years. Like 2023 was like, we're putting everything out because we were delayed by COVID, and we're gonna have like 75 really cool movies come out. And then 2024 was like, I guess Anora's Best Picture. I liked Anora a lot, but it was a very odd year. And now 2025 is pretty sparse so far. But the same could be said for TV. There's like a lot coming out, or there's nothing coming out. But Ben Stiller did say like it's going to be faster this time, so we'll see.
Gotcha. Well, I'm glad that I don't want any spoilers because I have not watched Severance yet, but hopefully the guy got severed, because and that's stupid. And that's
you could say that.
Well, I feel like I have nothing to offer to this conversation.
Well, what have you been watching this week? Have you watched anything interesting that I know nothing about?
I actually did. I watched I don't know if you've ever heard of the show Mythic Quest. It's by
I have heard of the show Mythic Quest.
Yeah, Rob McElhenney of Always
Rob
Sunny
McElhenney.
Yeah, like I am a big fan of Always Sunny, so I tend to kind of like follow those guys in whatever projects they're doing.
So you're a huge
So
AP Bio fan, is what you're telling me?
I've tried to watch AP Bio. I need to like just commit to like a month of Hulu to like actually watch it, because like I've just watched like stuff and snippets through like little things, but I haven't
Right.
committed.
So you're a
But
huge fan of
yeah,
that weird silent film that Charlie Day made?
I also haven't watched that. I try to keep up, but they do make a lot of stuff. But Mythic Quest is the one where I have actually watched the entire show, and it was kind of weird because I watched like the first 3 seasons and never spoke about it to anybody. And I feel like recently I've been like coming out as like a Mythic Quest fan, because like I just never talked about it, and no one really cares about the show, I feel like. But
I'll tell you who cares
yeah,
about
like
it.
yeah.
Apple TV cares about Mythic Quest, because as I've been watching Severance, it's like, yo, Apple TV, we've got like 3 shows, not just one. And they've
Yeah,
been pushing Mythic Quest very hard, and I've been like, this show got 5 seasons? When did that happen?
I feel like it's weirdly underpromoted, or just hasn't there's a community, there's like if you go on YouTube, like there's a lot of shipping going on by like very Tumblr people. But it's not hit that like kind of core audience I feel like it wants, which is like the type of people who would watch like your typical like kind of office sitcoms, you know. I feel like it hasn't quite
Right.
captured their hearts.
I feel like there
It
are shows
feels
that
very
like
niche.
build audience over time, and then there are shows that like start really high, and then like audiences drop off over time. And this feels like the first.
No, yeah, I think that's the case. But yeah, season 4 came out recently. So I went ahead and watched that. I have not watched the last episode that comes out this Wednesday, so it will be out by the time the podcast is out. It feels a little weaker, but I also haven't watched the show in general in a while, so I'm not sure if it was always like this. But it's still like, I think, a very worthwhile show if you're like a if you liked The Office when you were a teenager, you should check out Mythic Quest.
The only thing I've ever heard about Mythic Quest is that it plays with its format a lot. Like, it will follow like really minor side characters for a while, or it will like do one-off episodes that are interesting and unique. Like, didn't they do an entire episode in VR or in like an MMO or something?
I don't know if they've done entire episodes. Like, actually, they do a lot of like I guess kind of like almost like gags of like there's one in the pilot
What the game
where,
they're making
like,
looks like or something.
well, it'll be like they're in VR, or like in the pilot there's one where he's like in the middle of like testing something using like he has like the motion balls or whatever, and he's like testing like fight animations by like actually like messing around with like weapons and like hitting watermelons. And then there's like a little display like up in the kind of like control room that's like showing like a just gray little model of like a like guy or whatever. And then it's
Right,
like
in like a 3D animated space.
right, and then he's like having an argument like with the people in the control room, and rather than like show him doing that, it's just showing the little gray model. Like, I feel like they play with a lot of stuff like that, where it's like, you know, rather than just actually show the actor doing something, they're like messing around with like little models. But they have a lot of every season they have at least one episode that's just like a completely like a flashback,
unique for the
or
show.
like, yeah, or like with centered on characters that have nothing to do with the rest of the show, and they tend to be like some of the highlights of the series. So it's very like
Episodic.
it's yeah, like they're 12 episode seasons. So I feel like I feel like Parks and Rec is probably the best thing I could compare it to, in terms of like, you know, the format and everything. But like Parks and Rec, I feel like would get like a lot more episodes. Like it's very truncated, and then I feel like they're a little bit more artistic on it. So I don't know. It feels like it's like building on that form of like office sitcom that was like established by, like, I don't know, whatever era that Parks and Rec and The Office came. What do we call that? 2010s.
Like the Mike Schuler era or whatever, like the Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
And The Office and whatnot.
Yeah, like it feels like a fun, artistic, like way of doing that's a little bit freed from some of the restrictions that were back on that era, I guess. At its best. Yeah.
From the outside looking in, it reminds me a lot of Silicon Valley, although maybe not like that was kind of like an edgy show at times, and this is maybe like more like wholesome or like lighthearted.
I mean, they do hit you with stuff, like they don't shy away from like the politics, I feel like, and they hit you with emotional beats. I think that's the thing that I enjoy the most about it, is that like it does actually feel like the characters are progressing and like having arcs season to season. I just do think season 4 feels like I feel like it's ready for a finale. I feel like if season 5 is like the final season, then it'll be like a really good show. But I feel like if it
but maybe kind of
on,
losing its steam a little bit.
Yeah, we're maybe getting a little long in the tooth, especially because the central like relationship kind of has that will they won't they vibes to it. And I feel like they're handling it pretty well overall, right? Like it's like just because it's a will they won't they doesn't mean it's automatically bad. But like it's starting to feel a little long in the tooth, I feel like, in season 4. So I don't know. I'll see how I feel about the finale, but I'm feeling a little less like ecstatic about it than I was in like earlier seasons.
I gotcha.
Yeah, that's my Mythic Quest review.
I accidentally watched another piece of, I guess you'd call it like anti-fascist media.
Take him down.
I watched I'm Still Here. Do you know anything about this movie? Well, it was nominated for Best Picture this past year, and it won Best International Feature, and it's a Brazilian movie. And the most interesting thing I can say about it is like, wow, there's so many actors and actresses that you just will never know because they are working in the Brazilian film scene, and I've seen now one movie in Brazil, or like shot in Brazil by Brazilian filmmakers, and it was really good. Made me cry. It was just like a very, very interesting movie about a guy is kidnapped by like the changing political regime in like I think the 80s or maybe like the late 70s in Brazil. And it's just like, what does his family do when he's kidnapped? And there's like a lot of ambiguity about whether or not he's alive. And it's all based on a true story, and it was just really good. But it's just like the ways that like fascism and authoritarian governments like slowly creep into your life and then affect it a lot all at once felt pretty prescient, I would say. But it was also just like an amazing character piece. Maybe my favorite like family I've ever seen depicted in a movie. Like there's like 6 kids and then these 2 parents, and you really get to know like all of them, and they play off of each other really well. Some of like the best like child acting I've ever seen. The mother is like the main character, and she is like incredible in how she like slowly transforms throughout the movie and becomes like much sterner because she's going through like a whole bunch of stuff, but like trying to like hold it together. There's just this scene where she's taking the kids to get ice cream, and like internally is like falling apart, and it's just this weird juxtaposition. It was very good.
That sounds super cool. I feel like in this time, in this like rise of fascism in the US, it feels like foreign films are like the place to look for these like hard cutting critiques. Like, I don't know, but I mean, it sounds sick. I mean, this is just gonna jump into Porco Rosso, but like the idea, like critiquing fascism through like seeing it how it affects like the individual on a personal level is like such a rich and fun and evergreen thing to like explore in film, I feel like.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because like I feel like when I'm watching a movie and there's like a direct like Donald Trump parody or like one-to-one deal, it's like, okay, I get it. But sending it back a little bit and then making it more like allegorical about what's happening now, or being we wanted to make this movie now even though it's about the past, because the past was reflected into the future. Like, I think the people who made, I didn't actually get a chance to see it, but The Zone of Interest, which is a Holocaust movie from a couple years ago now, the guy who made that, like, talked a lot about that in one of his Oscar acceptance speeches, about how, like, it's important to, like, hold on to and remember, like, the atrocities of the past so that you do not repeat them, right? That to me works way better than like Mickey 17 that I talked about a week or two ago, where it was just like, we're gonna have Mark Ruffalo wear veneers and have his hair combed over badly, and he's just gonna kind of you know, do the Trump thing, like the Alec Baldwin on SNL thing, and it's like, okay,
yeah, it's like, I feel like, I don't know, like I'm this is probably a pretty surface level like critique of it, but I the vibe I get is that I feel like specific, like, making fun of like Donald Trump,
individuals,
or Elon Musk, or whoever the current like whatever the current aesthetics are of the current like fascist person like taking control, is like not really done anything at all to stop them from taking control, and it's like feels very like milquetoast and like lukewarm, and it's like I don't know, like it just feels like pouring more attention on them in a like time where any attention is like good attention for them, and being seen as like larger than life and like the main character of like the world and like the most important thing is like only ever beneficial to them. It's like I feel like these more historical movies, or like movies depicting like the same kind of fascism taking place in different contexts that aren't like so direct, feel a little bit more like, hey, this is a lot bigger than like what is going on right now, and like this is not like these people did not invent like being power hungry and like soulless and selfish. Like this has always existed, and it feels like it makes them smaller in a way, which
it also
feel like
I
is
feel
refreshing.
like it like Trojan horses like morality into like a general audience, right? Like I'd probably think about the world a lot, like far too much through the frame of movies, but I mean it does help to like watch like movies featuring diverse casts and diverse like perspectives, and I don't know, you can read a lot into it, and there's going to continue to be movies that are a reflection of like the overall global move to the right, and there are going to be bad ones and there are going to be good ones, but I think it has a little bit more weight when it's like based on a true story, but we're going to go a few decades back. Like there's something about it that works really well for me. And that movie, like I was sitting in the theater pretty bummed out just thinking about like all the like threats of like sending protesters to El Salvador that's going on right now, and like we're only going to arrest bad protesters, and like the stuff going on college campuses throughout the US right now, and it's just like, man, this is hitting a little close to home. But yeah, not to bum out the conversation, because I think Porco Rosso is a very much lighter version of this, but it's been unintentionally on the mind.
Well,
better a pig than a fascist, you know?
But well,
what's up? Did I steal your intro?
I mean, I feel like you just did it better than whatever I was gonna say.
What were you gonna do? No, we gotta hear it.
Something about like I'm gonna park my car over here, but like I'm gonna let me porco like into this spot. Like I don't know, something like that's kind of all I really had. So it wasn't very fully developed. So you know, better.
Let's porco the conversation over here and talk about Porco Rosso. Is that the idea?
Man, this guy Sam, he's always Rossoing me, but like razzing. That's really it.
That's even worse.
That actually hurt. Like I actually think I tore something in that stretch.
Mallory, it hurts every week. Why can't we just say, all right, now we're gonna talk about the movie? Hey, this week we're doing Porco Rosso. Welcome.
Where's the whimsy in that?
There's plenty of whimsy to come. We're about to talk about Studio Ghibli.
Comment if you think it's really hilarious when I desperately flounder to try and make a bad pun and don't succeed.
We're not going to have any comments. We just spent 20 minutes talking about fascism before the start of the
everyone
podcast.
wants to talk about fascism, okay?
Everyone's really enthused about how things are going right now, you know?
Everyone would like to focus on the current political state.
Everyone's getting involved.
So, Sam, what did you think about Porco Rosso?
Well, Mallory, I left something off of my what did I watch this week list. I'm going to hit you with some real nerd corner, ambush you with some research. I also watched another movie, In the Kingdom of Dreams and Madness, which is the documentary on Studio Ghibli, or one of a few. Mm-hmm. And it's actually about the period of Studio Ghibli where Miyazaki is about to retire. Stop me if you've heard this before. He's gonna retire after this movie, and it's him making The Wind Rises, which I have not seen. Have you seen The Wind Rises?
I don't believe I have.
Okay, it's like the one they made in like 2013-ish, around about this creator of a warplane, or a plane that eventually becomes a warplane, right? And I now know too much about that movie that I'm going to not watch it for a while because it kind of spoiled. Like, the only thing they talked about in the movie was the final shot, and they talked about it a lot. And I was like, okay, well, that's unfortunate. But I wanted to watch this documentary because, A, I'm doing a Ghibli video, surprise. But B, Miyazaki's just a weird dude, and I can never fully grasp what he's about while watching his movies. And this is one of the few times left where I can watch a Miyazaki for the first time, because he did Porco Rosso. So that's a long-winded way of saying that I'm more prepared than you are. But what did you think about Pig Movie? Because I pitched it to you, having not seen it either.
Well, I thought it was sick and really cool. I was always kind of interested in it, just in that, like, it kind of doesn't come up on the short list of, like, when people talk about their favorite Miyazaki movies, or when people start listing Miyazaki movies. Like, it's, you know, Spirited Away, and then it's Mononoke, Princess Mononoke, and, like, even, like, I feel like I hear, like, Nausicaa more than Porco Rosso.
I hear about Nausicaa more. I hear about Howl's Moving Castle more.
Yeah.
I got a little nervous about halfway through the week where I'm like, did I pitch one of the, like, lackluster Ghibli movies?
Yeah. But I felt watching it, I did not feel that it was lackluster. I felt that it was unique and, like, different, and kind of, like, I thought it was a very interesting character to, like, center it on. I feel like Miyazaki movies, like, so many of them have, like, young female protagonists, and it was very interesting to have, like, this, like, old piggish man who is just, like, you know,
who is the coolest guy ever.
He is cool.
Listen,
he's really cool.
He walks into that bar and I'm like, I would follow you anywhere, Mr. Pig. Like, you're just so. He's got. Did you watch the Japanese or the English?
So I did actually watch the English because of the.
Did you?
I was streaming it on Apple TV, and they did not have the Japanese. But I think Ghibli movies are one where, like, they put so much effort into the English dub usually that I'm not too, like, pressed about watching it in English.
I'm pretty sure the English is Michael Keaton. And
yes,
it's like,
Michael Keaton.
Yeah,
was
that's pretty good.
Yeah, immediately when he was talking, I was like, yeah, this is sick as hell. I also feel like Ghibli's one of those where, like, you want to really keep your eyes on the animation, like, every single frame, and, like, be immersed in it. So I think that, like, dubs.
Well, I didn't do that. I watched the sub, but he's got, like, the coolest, like, old man Japanese Yakuza sounding voice, like, ever. And I was just like, I love you, Mr. Pig. You're so cool. Can I follow you on your plane? Like,
he's amazing.
Every line he says is just, like, so full of, like, swagger. Like, I was incredibly charmed by this protagonist as well. Like, yeah.
I think it's just fun, like, following a depressed, like, 50-year-old man rather than, like, a young, like, coming of age, like, heroine in a way.
Right.
And, like, handled by the same director. Like, I think that like he depicted him like Porco Rosso in like such a loving way, and like I don't know, it was very interesting. Like I really got like themes from the movie about like I don't know, disillusionment, or like kind of like giving up on your dreams, or like, you know, reaching this point of exhaustion where you're not like really fighting for like honor or like any kind of principles anymore, and like
Right.
painting that experience in such a like human and like understandable and like relatable way, to where like I think it's a tough line to walk, because I think like we
Those
all
kind of characters
know,
can be like
yeah,
annoying. Like they can be like just big mopes, and it's like, well, just do something. Like you're poking them with a
yeah.
stick. Like, but
Usually
he's
the
a
gruff 50-something man who has given up on his dreams and is sexist and is like you know, doesn't fight for anything and is
mhm.
just selfish, is my least favorite character. So it's a feat that he was amazing and I liked him a lot. Like that's
One of
my
my
feeling
notes
on the
is,
movie.
yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Where one of my notes is like, this movie literally centers around like wagering a girl versus a big bag of money, and I just don't care because it's just excellent anyway. Like there's some questionable stuff about like how that character is treated,
Mhm.
Theo is treated, but like
Mhm.
the movie keeps it like just at arm's length enough to where it's like, I don't, it's just the logic of the movie. I'm not going to question it, and I'm too busy being like, this pilot's really neat. Um,
Yeah.
he's drinking wine and reading a book and sitting on one of those old fashioned like beach chairs, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm into this.
See, I felt bad because I'm not 30 yet. And I was like, I relate to Porco Rosso. And immediately, like, when it opens on him, like, doing his crossword and drinking wine on a beach, and he gets called for a job and he doesn't want to do it, I'm
I was like, I'll
like,
do it for double.
I feel like that now. that
Yes,
and
tired
like,
protagonists, big fan.
yeah, and I think that like his reluctance to really like do anything, and his like constant characterization of himself as a pig is like such an interesting thing that gets like explored through the film. I don't know, I think it's a very subtle movie in some ways, not like every way, but like I do think there's an extent that like it's exploring themes in a way that's like a lot less direct, that
Right.
I really
I mean,
enjoyed.
it's interesting. I feel like a lot of Ghibli movies obviously tackle war in some way.
Mm,
Like I think Howl's Moving Castle is supposed to be about the Iraq War, and you really
yes.
kind of got to kind of dig deep for that one. This,
Mm,
but then there are ones that are like way more like up at the surface, like obviously like A Grave of the Fireflies, or even stuff like Nausicaa or Princess Mononoke, where I think it like
mm-hmm.
lays on those themes a little heavier. This I
Right.
think does such a good job of being both like delightful. Like I feel like I could show my nephew this movie who's
Mm-hmm.
2 and he'd enjoy it. But there's enough moments of like, oh, well, I know what that means because I'm an adult. Like, oh, all the men have gone looking for work, or there's only women left to build the plane, or what are some other ones? The singer has lost 3 husbands. Only the good pilots don't make it. Like all these little tiny
Mm,
details that like add this layer of melancholy or like remembrance. Um, and it just it works really well to me. Like I like the tone a
yeah.
lot. Where like watching these amazing sequences of just this red plane flying across the blue ocean or the blue sky, and being like, I can either be like, this is a hype because planes are cool, which is also part Miyazaki, or I can just be like, oh, this is contemplative, and I finally understand why they call it a sea of clouds. Like when my favorite sequence, which we can get into later, of like the plane like heaven graveyard bit.
Yeah, oh my god, that was amazing. I loved that
That's
scene. We
instantly
we
like
can
a
talk about
top
that
5
now.
Ghibli scene for me.
So
Oh my god!
cool. Yeah,
And
I was blown away.
the music is so whimsical, but also
Yeah.
like it does have that tinge of sadness to it, and it's all very European. And yeah, like I was very pleased with this movie, and I was worried that it was going to be one of the like lesser Ghiblis. It's probably, I don't want to get into like ranking the Ghiblis, but I do. The way people talk about Kiki's Delivery Service is kind of now how I feel like I want to talk about Porco Rosso. So I'll put it that way.
Really? Yeah. I mean, it would definitely be up there for me as well. I think ranking a Ghibli movie is tough in general. Like there's such a high bar of standard, and like
I may be making
like,
a video about that exact idea right
yeah,
now.
I feel like each one, like watching it is like you're gonna carry this. This is gonna stick. It's gonna take you a while to digest this fully. To where it's hard to just like back to back them and be like, well, I think this one is better than this one or whatever.
Yeah, I made the mistake during COVID of trying to watch them all in order, and I stopped right before this one. So it's been on my list for a couple of years now. I've been like, I really need to get back to Ghibli and Porco Rosso, but it's hard to like mainline Ghibli movies. Like, yeah, I think it's you want to sit with them and let their ideas like kind of like you want to meditate on it for a while.
Yeah, totally. We got to talk about the main reason why I was very confident that this was going to be a good movie, and that is Gina from Porco Rosso. She's amazing.
Because you just saw her on the poster and you're like, that design's kind of great.
I'd seen so many pictures of her, and I'd seen a lot of cool people like mention her and talk about her, and like her big brim hat and her like collar. Yeah, like just about Gina from Porco Rosso. That was the main thing I knew about. I think she's just
I didn't know anything about Porco Rosso except for the red plane and the pig
that I run in. I didn't even know about the red plane, but I knew about Gina.
The red plane is so cool.
I didn't know that he was a human that got turned into a pig, but I knew about Gina. Some iconic looks. I'm honestly embarrassing myself even trying to recreate it. I was talking to Sam before the episode started, like these spaghetti straps are not like even cutting it, but like,
well, you'd need to have like, you need to be like running a club in Milan to be able to pull it off. So it's pretty tough.
Yeah,
it's a high bar.
No, it was, but I mean, she is gorgeous, amazing. I really like the way that she is depicted in the movie. Like, I don't know, that like losing 3 husbands and not being able to cry anymore, like just hits so good. And she has such a like loud presence in the movie, even when she's like not in it for huge segments. Like the entire time he's like in Italy, like she like yells at him on the phone to like leave and like escape and not get caught by the fascists. Like just that scene is enough for me to kind of be thinking about her almost like the whole time you're in Italy with him. It's like, you know, it the entire time you just
there's a
have
lot
the
of like
sense that he's avoiding commitment to her
100%.
or like avoiding growing up and like the like settling down with her or something like that. Like that
there's a
just,
sense
like,
that he
this
can't
pervasive feeling.
Yeah, there's a sense that he can't move on and like I don't want to say get over because he's been through a lot, and it seems like everyone there's like this pervasive feeling that every character we meet who's like over 30 has kind of like been through it and taken on the lessons and the hurt of that like war period. Like everyone's broke, everyone's kind of talks in that like, yeah, you know, that was a bad time, but we're just keeping on kind of sense. And then it's only the characters like Theo and I think Curtis as well who have like this naive youth to them, where Curtis wants to be this like war hero because he is approaching it from a very like Hollywood perspective, but he doesn't seem to get what it means to actually be in like a real war, right? Like he's kind of just like playing pretend, and it's very telling that Gina refers to him as a child as opposed to Porco or Marco.
Absolutely. Like the way that she's able to so confidently like shoot him down and just like laugh in his face after he's made this like grand proposal to her is like such a like that garden scene I loved so much, like the way she handled it. And like she's so like the way that she is like able to articulate like her emotions, so like like be vulnerable so like confidently. I'm like I can understand why she kind of has this like iconic status. Like I don't know, just
Her
a
and
really
Theo are
cool. Yeah.
they're like the only characters that tell the truth or that tell the
Mm.
whole truth about what they're feeling.
Mm.
Whereas Porco Rosso like hides behind his rugged pig exterior.
His
Um,
meaty porky cheeks.
Indeed, his strong, somehow strong but also oval jawline. It's just like, oh,
Yeah. No, definitely.
he's
I
just so
think
cool, Mallory.
it's a very interesting like in a because I think like Miyazaki movies get praised a lot for their like feminist depictions of like characters, which is like
Mm-hmm.
that was something that I think was kind of big on my mind because I think that this movie like leans a little bit more into like sexism in a way that
I would definitely say that
yeah.
it's a more throwback to like it feels like I'm watching a Hitchcock movie, which does not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily treat its female characters that well. Like treats
Yeah.
them more like plot devices or what have you.
Yeah, which it like I feel like it is fairly aware. I don't want to not give the movie credit because I don't know. I feel like I immediately was like looking at some criticism and seeing it like ranked like a lot lower on the list of like favorite Ghibli movies, primarily
Mm-hmm.
because of the sexism. I feel like there is like a pretty big degree of awareness. They maybe don't do like the perfect job of like spelling it out, which
Saying
I
we
do think
know.
that I do think that
Right.
like comes to the way that the movie in general is like trying to deliver its themes in a lot more subtle way. So
There's a
I don't
fine
know.
line between like sexism and romance, right? Because like a
Mm,
romance movie is almost inherently sexist because it's like let's take like man and woman, or in this case pig and woman, and like the only thing that we can talk about is how they fit together or don't. um
mm,
but yeah, I think I can see people in 2025 having problems with the movie, and I definitely had a couple
yeah,
moments where I'm like, that's a weird line or that's a strange thing. But I think
yeah,
it just holds that just far enough out that it does not affect the picture to me that much. Like I think Theo, she's just independent enough and she's just like spunky enough, and her relationship with Porco is more of like a schoolgirl crush than like it'd be really strange if the movie ended. I was really worried that like the movie would end and it's like the two of them are
yeah.
together, and I'd be like,
That would be a
okay,
nightmare.
that's nightmare, nightmare, nightmare. Like that would be not good.
Yeah. No, that was
But the fact,
if it ended with this old man pig dating the 17-year-old like
right?
granddaughter of his like coworker, I would be like, this is not a good movie. But it
Yes,
decidedly did
but
not
it
go in that
doesn't.
direction.
Yeah, exactly.
um
And I'm fine with her having a crush on him because A, he's
mm,
really cool, but B, it's just like I
yes.
think that was ultimately played well, where it was sweet, not creepy, right? But I
Hmm.
can see people balking at it nowadays.
Yeah. I mean they definitely could have been more delicate with it and like I don't know, been maybe more overt, but I personally, I think Miyazaki, like, I keep referring to him by his last name only, and it feels rude for some reason. I'm just bad
Everyone
at
calls
like
him
names. I'm bad
everyone
at
calls him
names.
Miyazaki. I mean, it's how I don't know how to say his first name personally, but
Remember when we did the One Piece
Hayao
episode and I
Miyazaki
kept calling him Monkey D. Luffy for the entire thing? It's like I feel like I just have an issue with names.
and
Um,
Zora, Zoro, which made me laugh.
hey, One Piece fans, take that. Anyways,
Yeah, I've never been
um,
criticized for my pronunciations. Don't worry about it.
but yeah, Miyazaki, like, I feel like he has built up enough cred to where I am very trusting of him in the like feminism department and like his views on things, if that makes sense.
I
So
also
I'm
look at him and I'm like,
inclined,
he's an
yeah.
old man. Like he's an old man in the 90s.
Mm.
It's kind of better than I would have expected,
No, for sure. Like, I think he is like a revolutionary filmmaker for like a reason. Like I think he really does go against the grain in a lot of ways in the war sense, which I would also like to talk about. But like since my favorite topic is feminism, we have to go through it first. But like I feel like I'm inclined to give it an optimistic reading. To me, this is my take. I feel like when when Porco first meets Fio, he kind of like makes these like weird like misogynist comments that are kind of like digs. Like he's
it is very stereotypical, right? Like
right.
the old gruff man can't imagine a woman being a part of like the world that he's grown up in, kind of thing. Yeah,
and it's very explicit in a way that I liked. Like it's not subtle. It's like he just on the nose says like, how many women are gonna work on my plane? Women can't fix it, you know. And I think that like he faces a lot of like direct immediate backlash from like the grandpa and from her, and it's like it's not like angry and like mad. It's just like dismissive towards him in a way, like just kind of, oh, you old idiot, you old pig, you know.
Right.
In a way that I think that's like one point in the, like, if you're watching this movie, like I think something to pay attention to is like there's never really a point where like his sexist statements are like left to kind of like hang and like feel like the movie's like putting any weight behind them, because they're immediately like contradicted by these other characters.
Right. He like the plot of the movie proves him wrong at every corner, right?
Yeah,
and it's not even like he's really like, I wouldn't say that's like his defining characteristic is he doesn't like women or something. Like it's just like he's a rough around the edges, right? And those edges get kind of smoothed over.
I feel like though my take on what I feel like it was trying to depict was that like it's almost like, I feel like toxic masculinity or whatever you want to call it, it's like you kind of have to performatively be a little bit misogynist sometimes. Like he meets this young beautiful girl and he is gotta kind of make a sexual comment about her, or like a, you know, objectify her in some way, even if it's just
as a form of like putting up barriers, kind of.
Yeah, and like and maintaining this like almost like bro code with like the other man, which is like the grandpa, like the engineer grandpa or whatever. Yeah. Like it's almost like he feels like that's what's expected of him, and to like be dismissive. And when the grandpa like just repeatedly tells him no and puts it in his place, it kind of puts him in this like weird unique situation where he's like not having to maintain this like bro code, and he's able to just like look at like not only like Fio but like all the other women of this guy's which I thought it was really funny that they're all part of his family, like the 100 women that like fixed this plane. But it's like he's in a situation where he can look at all those women like for what they are, which is like competent and skillful people who are like helping put together a plane, even though like a lot of them aren't accustomed to doing that kind of work. And kind of like I feel like that's an internal change for him, maybe he did have those kinds of beliefs on some level, but he's like put in a context where he doesn't have to like maintain this veneer of like sexism. And that to me feels like a shift that starts to take place, where I think Fio like inspires him in a lot of ways. I don't think it's exclusively the fact that she's a woman. I think that like
I will say I think
the central theme is like the youthful exuberance.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I think age has a lot to do with it, where if you look at like who we're focusing on, like Gina is like this beautiful but also like aging lounge singer who's been married 3 times.
Immortal beauty.
Immortal beauty, timeless. Yes. I think the line at the end of the movie is she just keeps getting more beautiful every year, which is great and very knowing.
Wine.
And then Porco Rosso is like this veteran, right?
Yeah.
All of the sea pirates are old men except for Curtis, who has to be this young hotshot because he's coming in from a different country. Not that America wasn't involved in World War One, but it's still just like he has to be an outsider, right? Because he has to not be as familiar with like the horrors of war and treat it more like a game. And all like there's just this sense that there's no young people around throughout the entire movie except for Curtis and Fio, and it takes like the the openness and the kindness of like youth to kind of bring out the kindness and like selfishness or selflessness of Marco, where he seems
Yeah.
pretty, even though he's very cool and suave, he's very distant in the first half of the movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I don't want to discount the age. Like, I do think that is, like, the
I think it's
central
both.
theme.
I think
But,
it's man and woman, and then
yeah.
also adult and child.
No, absolutely. But yeah, I think that, like, going with my reading, like, on how I feel like the internal take on his relationship is, like, I think, like, in a, like, toxic masculine environment, he would almost be, like, expected to, like, make a pass at her in some kind of way, or, like, be like, he's
Right.
shown, like, in the early scene in the movie where he's, like, walking around the restaurant, like, all these women that are talking to him, and he's like, we can talk one-on-one later. Like, he's almost, like, playing this character to, like,
Mm-hmm.
navigate through this situation. Um, but then, like, you see his true nature where he's, like, alone on the beach with, like, her, like, in his little private, like, island thing, like, the night
The
before
best
he has
hideout
his
ever.
final
Yeah.
battle. Yeah. Where it's, like, he's in this situation where it's, like, okay, like, this girl is here, ready and willing, seems to be in love with you. Like, you have every opportunity in the world to take advantage of her in that way.
And he
And,
chooses not to.
like, he clearly sees her as, like, a kid. He clearly starts referring to her in that way. Like, he sees the way that she acts childish and, like, wants a bedtime story and that kind of thing, and that's the way he treats her, is in this, like, fatherly kind of, like, reassuring way,
Right.
and
Even
I
as
think that,
she's like forming a crush on him as well.
yeah, like, and he shows, like, awareness, empathy, like, able to, like, shoot her down while, like, you know like, I think it's such a beautiful moment when he, like, rejects her advances and is like, you're, like, an amazing engineer, you're full of life, like, you're an amazing like, he's, like, building her up or whatever, but, like, not building her up into, like, a
A partner.
he's not grooming her, which is, like, a way
Right.
of building someone up into being something that you want. He's, like, building her up into being her own, like, independent spirit or whatever. I don't know. I
And
really, really
bragging about her to
liked
the sea
that.
pirates, even as they're like holding him at gunpoint. It's great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that, like, that whole, like, where they're betting, like, her being placed on the thing against, like, money seems like that to me reads just as, like, yeah, it's like, as awful and objectifying as it is, he's it's just like, he's like, he's gonna win, so it's fine,
Right. What does
like,
it matter? Because we know what the outcome is
yeah,
going to be.
like, and
I
she
think there's
she has
also.
zero problem, like, being like, yeah, Curtis, if you win, I'll marry you, because she does not think for a second that Curtis is gonna win. Like, that's what it really feels like.
Well, and
um
even the scenario itself being so childish, right? Like, of like
yeah.
this child bride on one seat and this bag of money with a dollar sign on it on the other. I feel like the movie calls that out earlier when he's in the
mm,
theater and he's talking about like this is a bad movie and the other guy's like, I don't know, I kind of like it. And you're watching like this even more stripped back version of the story that we're watching play out, and it's just like,
mm.
yeah, it is a cartoon, it's a little silly, but also like there's some meaning here. And then subtly in the middle of that scene is the line I think a lot of people take from the movie, which is like, better a pig than a fascist. When he's talking to his military friend, his old comrade.
Yeah, love that scene. But
I
yeah, that's my sexism rant. No,
that's good.
yeah, go ahead with your thoughts.
You want to come over to Sam Documentary Nerd Corner?
All right, welcome to Documentary Nerd Corner.
All right, listen. In the Kingdom of Dreams and Madness is pretty good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's a really weird documentary because it doesn't have a through line, an ending, a beginning. It just kind of like goes all over the place, but you just get like a little bit of a glimpse of the Miyazaki like work progress, or work process, I should say. And he constantly flips between being like this cynical, bitter old man and then also being like a kindly grandfather, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about Porco Rosso a little bit in this documentary, and I think he's wrong. I think he's too harsh on himself, which makes sense. It's a very artisty thing to do, but he's in the middle of making this other movie about air warfare, right? And he called out Porco Rosso, as he said, it's a very foolish endeavor, or a very foolish movie, because he was making kids movies at the time, like throughout the early 90s, right? Like I think the one before this is Totoro, I think, or Kiki's, and then Totoro. And so he said, I made a kids movie that wasn't really a kids movie, and then Wind Rises is, I think, very adult by comparison. I think he's super wrong. I think this movie does a great job of depicting what he wants to depict, right? This, like, push and pull between, like, the inventiveness and the excitement and the interest that he obviously has in, like, air warfare, and the, like, cataclysmic results of that, and, like, the interplay there. Miyazaki's fascinating to me because he's so deeply affected by World War II. Like, he was born in the middle of it, and almost everything he does kind of reflects that idea. And then Wind Rises, I believe, is mostly based on his dad, who worked as, like, a airplane manufacturer, and the feeling of how can he think of his dad as, like, this proponent of war, but also as, like, a fatherly figure. To me, Porco Rosso is that optical illusion, where you see Fio. You know the moment where Fio first wakes up and she sees Porco Rosso as a man.
Yes.
And it's almost like the woman or vase optical illusion, and he turns and he's just the pig.
Yeah.
I feel like the whole movie is that. Like, that's the movie, where you have this, on the surface, kid-friendly, pig flies plane, yay, movie. And then if you turn your head just slightly, or you change your perspective, it's this deeply moving and, like, haunting story about what it means to, like, go through a war and to survive it, and what you do after, and how the world changes, and how the world maybe continues back down that path again. This has been Sam Documentary Corner. That was very interesting.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I was also thinking about there's, like, a little snippet of an article I was reading, which I think I'd heard something like this before, but, like, him talking about, like, the war. But it was interesting because he was talking about, like, how like living through a time of, like, nationalism and a time of war, like, led to, like, this intense hatred of, like, his own country, of Japan, that, like, he carried for, like, a very long period of his life, and that feeling only started to melt away when he, like, was traveling around Europe, and, like, came to kind of, like, appreciate, like, things that he did like about Japan, which weren't, like, the ideals of, like, nationalism that were being held up at the time, but, like, the nature and the people and the food and, like, these kinds of things. And I thought it was very interesting. Like, I feel like I definitely relate to that experience, having been raised in countries that I really do not feel an affinity for, and having, like, nationalism be kind of, like, the root of, like, me just kind of feeling like
That disconnect.
Yeah, like, just kind of having this, like, built-in, like, disgust or, like, dislike of, like, both the US and the UK has just always kind of been the default for me. And I think that, like, it is, like, a very mature step to have, like, reflected and be able to, like, filter those things apart. And, like, I don't know, I almost, like, took a reading. I don't know how, like, accurate this is, but, like, I took a reading of, like, Porco Rosso's, like, flying, his, like, amazing skill that he has, that he's, like, the best pilot, as, like, you could draw that, like, metaphor of, like, that's, like, his art or something like that, or for, like, for Hayao Miyazaki, that would be, like, his art, like, that would be the
his
equivalent
animation,
of Porco Rosso's,
right?
Yeah, like, his animations, his, like, mangas, his movies and stuff, like, is his thing that, like, he can do that's amazing, that can be used for, like, good and bad, I suppose, for, like, fun and whimsy, and for, like, propaganda. And I kind of felt the sense of like, I don't know, I guess I kind of interpreted like, I think that people, especially like fascist movements, are very like, they want to cling on to art. They want to claim pieces of art that they feel like support their regime and like stuff like that. They want the endorsements of artists, and they want artists to like make art that will like depict them in a way that they want to be depicted. And I could see the idea of like, obviously there is like a direct thing that he is talking about, like of war and like fighter pilots and stuff like that. Like I don't want to diminish that, but like I could also just like, maybe it's just a way of relating it to it. That's something I'm more familiar with as like art and artists, but like I feel like
no, I think you're hitting on it.
Fascists like wanting to claim Porco, like it's like you could join either side of this war, like and make a killing basically. And he's like, no, I want to like make my own thing, like out on my corner on my own island. And I feel like his arc, like if I were to interpret it as like Miyazaki talking about his own like artistic process, like his arc goes from like, I just want to make my own art and be left alone and like just make enough money to support myself and that's it, to being like, no, I actually want to make art that kind of like stands up for my values and stands in opposition to like fascism and stands like for other people that I care about. Like I don't know, that kind of feels like the arc of this depressed pig. I felt like Miyazaki could definitely insert himself in there, and at least that's the way I related to it and interpreted it. But yeah,
no, I think you're spot on. Like there's the scratched out picture of him right in the bar, and I think without a doubt he's the one who scratched himself out.
Yes,
like that is my interpretation.
I think she says that. At least in the dub, she
like, implies it. If not, yeah.
She was like, "Why did you scratch yourself out?" Like that. That was how she delivered the line in the dub. It might have been different in the sub.
Yeah, but he's like the person who takes the least pride, and he takes pride in his skill, but he's the person who like hypes himself up the least compared to like every other character in the series, and it's very telling that by the end of it, he's having to work so much harder to not kill Curtis by like, he won't fire at him. He's going to let him run out of ammo and continue to and then like wait to shoot his engine. And he's rejecting what he could be very good at, which is like a tool of warfare. And just every interaction he has with the plane. And I think that like you are spot on, and you would probably really enjoy this documentary because Miyazaki says a lot of those ideas, like about whether animation means anything, whether art or movies. He has like he completely flips back and forth between like complete cynicism and like his actions kind of contradict himself, but he talks about like movies used to mean something and now they don't, and he's referring to himself, and he's like, I don't think my art means anything anymore. But then at the same time, he's making like a beautiful piece of art that he's spending like hours and hours talking about the final frame of, and it's very interesting. There's a bit in the movie where he's got these goat statues from like an old production he did, and the only thing he cares about, the man has like 3 hours of free time a day, he works this ridiculous schedule, all he cares about is putting the goats out at night in his windowsill so that kids see them when they walk by in the morning. And like he just talks about the goats all the time, and I'm like, this man is, I just want to give him a hug. Like it
yeah, I think it's, I don't know, like, I mean, I'm curious, it's also interesting because like this is like, movies like this are obviously a huge collaborative process with like writers and artists 100%. And everything like that, but it's a movie that feels like it is really on the nose about like this guy who's like cool, like an amazing and just generally a good guy. Like pretty much all the actions that Porco Rosso takes in the movie are like heroic and helpful and like supportive in some way. Like he's not without his faults. Like obviously like the sexist comments, and like I think also like the demeaning comments to himself aren't like great, and him not like being there for people who like want him there, like Gina. Like obviously he has his faults, but like just this overall like great guy that doesn't recognize himself as greatness and like as a great guy, and like the whole curse of a pig, him being a pig, feeling like this self-inflicted thing. Like it feels like every time he calls himself a pig, he is like digging himself deeper into this like depression and self-doubt and this like curse that he has. It just feels so self-inflicted, I guess. And you're kind of, it's like tragic in a way, but I don't know, like you kind of go through this arc of like accepting him with this like major flaw. Like he doesn't necessarily get, I don't know if he gets healed. I mean, obviously the ending is like ambiguous. He's clearly like healed, like during that
his
scene,
spirit
like,
is
with
healed,
Curtis.
and I think that probably takes away the pig spell.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It feels like coming to accept him in the way he is to an extent, and like I don't know. Hopefully, he has changed the way that he thinks about himself by the end. But yeah, I don't know. That feels like a very spot on like metaphor for like Miyazaki, the human guy that we have learned so much about through different documentaries and interviews.
Listen, documentary corner. You're going to be seeing a lot of footage from this documentary in the future of tracking
needed
shots.
to make we should have done Nobody Leaves until we finish this goddamn documentaries.
There's a video store near me that actually like still rents Blu-rays. Who can believe it? And so I rented out Porco Rosso, and while I was doing so, I was like, oh, they have in the Kingdom of Dreams and Madness. Like I've always wanted to watch this. There's a lot of like famous Miyazaki interviews taken out of context that are pulled from documentaries like this, and there's like 4 or 5 about Ghibli.
Right.
There's one that I now want to watch about the making of The Boy and the Heron from a few years ago, which is his actual final film, maybe.
Currently his final film.
When the Wind Rises documentary ends, and it's like, and I retired. And I think he literally, in his retirement statement, wrote like, but I could keep doing this for another 10 years. And then he does. And it's like, it's just so great. He's a man of contradictions, and I love it. And I love that this movie reflects it, where it's like, I was putting together a list of things Miyazaki unequivocally loves. Children, he loves children. Like, children characters, amazing. I love the girls' swim team in the beginning. They are just like, no one captures what it's like to be around a toddler more than Miyazaki, and they're incredible, and they're adorable, and like they're in for like 3 minutes, and it's just great, excellent.
He loves the planes. Vibe of like when you're surrounded by kids and they're calling things out exactly how they are, and you feel like they're smarter than you, like that. That I feel like is the vibe of that scene, and that's something that I feel like he knows how to just nail. It was really, really funny.
Absolutely. He loves airplanes. He named his studio after an airplane. I don't know if you noticed, there's an engine in this movie that has Ghibli printed on it. Ghibli is an airplane.
Huge Ghibli moment. It said Ghibli on the screen. What's going on with that? That's crazy.
Studio Ghibli's named after an airplane. And in this documentary, he's very dismissive. He's like, Ghibli's just an airplane.
It's cool though. Airplanes are cool. I don't know.
I agree. He likes doohickeys. And there are so many good doohickeys in this movie. How are all of these planes like operated by like hand crank? It's amazing. Theo has the cool like sliding ruler, like the architecture table for designing the plane. Her little porthole has like a bigger hood and then a smaller mini hood, so she can just pop up her one head like a gopher. Just excellent. Unbelievable attention to detail. Amazing. Perfect.
I feel like, it's like that thing of contradictions, because I feel like so many of his movies are like harshly critical of like the Industrial Revolution and like the ways that technology has continued to kind of like erode at a lot of like our society and like make things hard for us. But there's also such a clear love for machines in like all of these movies. You know what I mean? Like
they're depicted with such a level of detail that only someone who
mechanics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very, very Hideki Anno, which makes sense because they're like best friends. He's also heavily featured in the movie, which is interesting in the documentary. Yeah, and he loves Europe, and he has this deep appreciation for Europe as an outsider, and I think he holds Europe to like a high esteem, but also at a distance. I keep using like physical metaphors, which I guess makes sense for a movie that's about planes and wide open spaces. But like he clearly like loves European culture to an extent, but he doesn't want to get into the nitty gritty of like the scars of war that are very heavily felt in Europe as well as Japan. And just oh, it's so good. Porco Rosso, big
Yeah.
fan.
No, totally. It was really really nice um depiction of all these themes. I feel like I relate to it a lot as like my dad also worked on planes and I also have a complicated relationship with him. So I feel like and I also love planes and like just spaceships in general and things that fly like yeah, I don't know. I felt it a lot. I think there is like a beauty in this which I think is part of what I was trying to get at with like the way that I feel like the movie kind of like learns people and like even himself like learns like Porco Rosso himself like learns to accept like the pig like parts of him and the like
Mm.
unconfident, depressed, self-doubting parts of himself and the guilt that he carries. Like it feels less like he releases that guilt and more that like he accepts it as part of
He
himself in
accepts
a
it as
weird
part of
way,
himself. I 100%
which
agree.
allows him to like move on. But it is like he is just like marred by contradictions, which I think like I personally feel is like part of being human. Like you kind of have to just like accept the ways in which you're going to be a contradictory being and that you can't fully like live to these like definitive values. Like I don't know, it's
Something
kind of
something.
a
There's
love
no
letter
ethical
to
consumption under capitalism. And
right. It's like I don't know, it's
yada
kind of
yada.
it feels very loving of humans and of humanity and
Yes.
of like this like you know fighter pilot who like abandoned his like squad at like one point in the past and is like saving a young girl. Like now it's like it
If
loves
not
Porco
loving,
Rosso. Yeah.
it's very forgiving, right?
Yes.
Porco
And
Rosso may not be able to
embracing.
forgive himself, but the movie definitely forgives him.
Porco Rosso is anti-cancel culture.
No, I think he's pro cancel culture because he's pro himself being canceled.
It's like he's just like he's just the Jesus of cancel culture. He's like, I will take on all your cancellations so that you may be free of
Indeed, because I
of these
shot planes really well
expectations.
for a while.
um yeah, I do
I
I do oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to talk about the animation a bit.
Hmm.
It's very impressive to me. When I think of Ghibli animation, I think of a lot of moving parts. I think of like big crowd scenes and a giant mechanical moving castle that's like walking across a field. And it's interesting how much negative space there is in this movie, where it's a lot of like tiny red plane against giant white cloud or like crystal blue sea with little dots of islands. And it's a mode I'm not used to them being in, and I really enjoyed it. I liked how much of this movie was in the open sky and in the open sea as opposed to being in like a city. There's obviously like it's I would more have expected stuff like the canal scene of them taking off through the middle of town. That's kind of
Mm.
more the Ghibli I'm used to, and they did a lot more with blank space while still making it incredibly like dynamic and interesting and fun to watch.
Yeah, and those blank spaces still feeling like real and like lived in. Like there's, I mean, because like Ghibli, like you're always gonna be impressed by like the backgrounds and the details and stuff like that. And like there were definitely like just random scenes like where he's in the bank or when he's in the restaurant and you're just looking at all the background characters and the like insanely detailed like every little thing has been drawn and represented. But like
Mm-hmm.
even when they're out on like these beaches and they're having these fights, like I feel like you still have just like this real sense of like place and like it doesn't feel like they're floating around in like a frictionless white room or something like that, like it's
100%.
um or like it doesn't give you the same feel as like I've never like watched Dragon Ball, but I think something that is like a big turnoff for me with Dragon Ball is like seeing how many episodes are just like this same endless desert, and it just feels kind of like this is a blank canvas for us to have a fight on, because it's not about the location, it's about the fight, you know.
Or like the anime high school classroom that always looks the same because you have to cheat and you want to put the character in the protagonist spot because it allows them to be cut. It allows you to cut to where you have a more empty frame to animate with, and like all these different like tricks people do.
Absolutely.
There's no shortcuts in a Ghibli movie, it seems like, for the most part.
Like place as always in any Ghibli movie feels important, but yeah, like when they're out in the sky, I love how detailed this beach is. Like all I was thinking is I want to go to that beach and just chill out.
It makes me want to go to the Bahamas so badly.
Yeah.
I'm like this, yeah.
Like I don't know, it's I bought like a canvas and paints this week. Like that's been one of my things that I'm like trying to get into, and it's like, yeah, it just makes me want to not paint in my apartment and like go outside and paint. Like that's just really what it makes me feel like. It's just like you know, that finding these like little nooks and crannies and corners where you're able to be free. Like I don't know, it also hits close to home in a real way, and like just how I feel about the world. Like I feel like I'm always searching for like nooks and crannies where I can like exist in a society that's like increasingly like shutting
crowded
down public spaces and putting homeless spikes and like and not benches where you can lie down or whatever. Like it's like, you know, I feel like it's hard to like find spots in nature sometimes where I'm allowed to just like be, and I don't have to like buy a ticket to like get in sometimes. I don't know, it's like I definitely felt like that vibe and like the desire for like freedom and an escape from these like constricted spaces that this movie seems to like really drive home. Good movie.
Yeah, like the quintessential Ghibli shot to me, I feel like there's two modes. There's wow, look at all the background characters. There's character pushing through a crowd mode, and there's character as a little dot in a big expansive world mode, and both shots are incredible. Like I think that what is when you think of Studio Ghibli, what is like the scene or like image that comes to your mind?
That is tough. I feel like I should, you know, that I am getting the same thing. It's always flight for me. I'm getting a scene where it's like in Nausicaa when she's
taking her glider
like,
across
they fly out of like they're in like the bug's cave, and they're trying to like I forget what happens because I haven't seen the movie in a while, but like they're probably trying to fix their plane or get it free or something like that. But then it's like when they fly out, like that scene sticks in my mind. Or like
they leave from like the overgrown forest of like fungus into like the big expansive desert.
Yes, it's like just as they're leaving and like taking to the sky. Or the other one that immediately jumps into my mind is like Kiki's, where they're like getting the like hot air balloon is like taking off and like that's happening. Or in like Spirited Away, where she's like riding on the back of the dragon. Like it's all flight to me. Like I feel like or like moments of escape
soaring
that I feel like really stick as like these are the cores of these movies in my mind personally.
Yeah, Spirited Away, I think, does both of these shots like one after the other. Like there's either like Chihiro, is that her name? I think it's her name.
Yeah.
Chihiro's on the staircase, this little dot in this big scary like scenario where she's like having to be courageous and like face like essentially the void. Or she's in this crowded bathhouse like having to like kind of be jostled around, or she's in the sky, in a big empty sky with the dragon man, and it's just like that constant flip back and forth. Like I don't think it's saying anything negative about either, but I am with you where the like small dot in a big wide world shots like always jump out to me. Like the shot I think of whenever I think of Studio Ghibli is early in Princess Mononoke, Ashitaka like riding Haku through the mountainsides, like heading towards the main plot of the movie, and it's just this like 2-minute shot of him riding with the mountains behind him, and the mountains and the sky kind of blend together, and it's playing that incredible score, and you're just like, cinema. Like, it's just so good.
Yeah.
And Porco Rosso
really
had that
know
in
how to-
spades, and ooh.
Yeah, give it space and give it time to breathe and like linger and like, you know, not give you internal narration, but like let you think about like how this character probably thinks. Like, it invites more interpretation and invites like you to kind of think about what's going on. Like, there's a scene that really stuck out to me where he like goes, like, it's like after all the women crowd in and start trying to fix his like plane, and he just like walks outside to like take a smoke by the river or whatever. And like there's just no dialogue. He like briefly like glances at Fio in the window, like seeing her hard at work, but like there's so long before he even gets to that like end point on the scene where he's just kind of like taking his time like walking around, and it's like right after he's expressed all these like sexist ideas and everyone has said fuck you, we're gonna fix your plane anyway, and kicked him out, and like that's kind of what is going through your mind. You're like, I wonder how he's introspecting and changing. Like, I don't know, these quiet moments that you don't get enough in movies, or it's nice. I like it a lot.
It is a particular mode that I very much enjoy. And I'm very excited to shell out a bunch of money to go see Princess Mononoke in IMAX in a couple days. I cannot wait.
Are we like breaking ground by being the first pro Ghibli like podcast?
I don't think anyone's ever talked about Studio Ghibli in general on YouTube, or them being good movies. Yeah, I think we're like one of one.
It's just cool. He just is cool and good at making movies, man. It's not, it ain't complicated. It's just good.
I agree.
It's good.
I was
art.
shocked how much I enjoyed Porco Rosso, and maybe it's just being in the right mode for it, or the right mood, but it was good.
Yeah, definitely.
Good movie's good.
I do have to break something pretty huge, which is last week we made predictions about the movie Porco Rosso. And I would like to say that I predicted initially that Porco Rosso would kill someone. And then you said it was a movie about the wars. So I said, okay, actually, I change. I predict that he won't kill anyone. And it seems like I did good with that. And I feel like you could agree that he didn't kill anyone. Maybe he killed someone in the war, but it didn't seem like he did. I feel like
I'm sure he has, but we never see him do so, right?
So I don't know. Would you be willing to grant me that I was correct in my prediction, or do you think it's a
I think you were correct in your prediction.
Okay. Because I will say the other prediction that you made was that the food was going to be really good. Now, the only food
it wasn't really there.
Yeah, he was eating spaghetti, and it was really funny because he just starts like eating the spaghetti, and then everyone stops to pray. And he's just sitting there holding spaghetti on a fork for the entire prayer going, oh, jeez.
And then Theo's like, winking at him. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like,
now,
the spaghetti, I mean, it didn't look unappetizing, but, you know, for Ghibli, it was not like really a focal point of the movie. So I don't know.
Let me make a case. I think in this one, the food definitely was lackluster compared to other Ghibli movies.
Right.
Which that is in itself is a trope of like the Ghibli food shot that is like, oh man, an egg on toast has never looked any better.
Yeah.
The wine and like the seltzer water, I think is pretty great. Like the glass of wine, the mid-afternoon like red, or the seltzer water you pour for your lady across the table, like some of that I thought was Kino.
Interesting. This is a pretty cranked take that the wine was good enough. I don't know.
I didn't say good enough, but I said I think it kind of got there. I feel like my prediction wasn't... I get at least half points there, I would say.
Okay. I'll give you a 4.5 out of 10.
What the fuck?
Is that too low?
You changed from he's definitely going to kill somebody to he's not going to kill somebody because of me, and I allowed it. But
okay. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I was thinking so much, because I'm like, you've given me a lot, and you've been really charitable to me. But also, like, it was just brown spaghetti. It just was like,
This podcast sucks. I hate you.
I just didn't see any vegetables in the spaghetti. But I mean, if you want to lower my points as an act of revenge, like,
it's a meat sauce. What do you want from it?
I mean, yeah, like it's just like it feels like microwave. Like, I guess it's the war. I guess it was wartime. And the fascists, and the price of spaghetti was probably through the roof. Oh man,
they show the inflation. All the stacks of cash doesn't buy anything.
Yeah, that was a really funny scene. I'll give you 5.5. I'll give you 5.5. How does that sound? Does it need to go higher? Your eyebrows are raising. I feel like
I don't know. Look in your own heart, Mallory, and you'll find the answer.
Oh god, I feel like such a pig right now. I feel racked with guilt. This has been Prediction Corner.
Can't wait to have a prediction for whatever you're pitching me now. But before we get to that, I can't rank this movie. If I could, it'd be very high, but it's not. It was my pitch. So I want to hear what you think of it, and I'm going to mute my mic because the leaf blowers are back.
They're back. Oh, this is hard. I think this movie really came to me at, like, a good time in my life. Like, I think that again, I don't know. I talk about being so old when I'm, like, not that old, but I do just
100%.
feel relating to, like, the sense
You've retired
of,
to the
like,
coastline. You typically fly your
Yeah.
plane around every afternoon. Yeah.
Giving up on my dreams and just being content with being in a little corner of the world, I feel like is maybe a theme of my life, and I feel like I could really connect to this movie in a lot of ways. I like the way that it addressed a lot of different issues, and yeah, I mean, like, the whole fascism thing at this time, like, just hits very squarely. You could blame it on my ADD, but I think this is one that's got to be...
Let's go! Is this the
We've done
second sale tier?
This is the first
This is
time
the
we've
first?
This is the
Oh,
first
shit.
time. This is the first time.
But didn't you
anything
put
has
Stop
been-
Making Sense in this S tier?
So we'll have to review the tier list, but
Indeed.
No, this is podcast history because this is the first time we've put anything in, like, the top ranking. But I don't
It's
know. I
true.
love this movie. It's like I cannot find a reason to put it any lower. Like, realistically, like I thought it was really great. I could see ranking it, like, highly among, like, a list of, like, all Ghibli movies, even though it's, again, very hard to, like, rank all of those. But I mean, yeah, I feel like if anything was gonna break into, it's gonna be Hayao Miyazaki. So there it is.
I'm right there with you. I'm not allowed, by the contract of this podcast, I'm not allowed to rank it, but it would rank very high.
Seems to me he was telling me I was a pig and maybe I deserved to be all alone.
But I'm sure you're going to pitch me something that will enter the Stop Making Sense tier. So let's hear it.
Pitch something as good as Stop Making Sense? Impossible.
Or at least as good as Porco Rosso.
So we'll see how you take this. I feel like there's just been, like, a huge theme on our podcast. We've all had it in our minds. It's been the only thing we can talk about. It's just kind of been, like, too present, like, in everything in the culture to ignore. And I think that this week we have to fucking watch Severance. I don't think we could not watch Severance and talk about Severance this week. And again,
Hey,
you've seen this.
We're only
going to
be like 3 weeks late. That's fine.
But, like, what are we going to do? Not talk about Severance? I just really want to watch Severance.
I know you really want to watch Severance. So you're pitching. This is a podcast first where you're pitching me something I've seen. Actually, no, it's not.
It's a
Lemonade was
podcast
that.
second.
It's the second time.
I have managed to continually pitch things that you've seen and I haven't.
That's fine.
I have deliberately abstained from watching any Severance because I didn't want to come into this pitch and be like, yeah, I'm like this deep into it. Like I feel like I need to just, like, go through everything, blow through everything. I feel like I'm gonna be insane. I feel like I'm gonna be writing on the walls like conspiracy theories. Like this show you've seen, like, and like the main thing that you said that made me pitch on it is like there's a healthy room given for like coming up with like game theories and fan theories about a show, and that's
Very
something I
much
just
so.
love to do. I know that like it's not everyone's cup of tea, and that sometimes like a show trying to give room for all of these like interpretations can like impact the quality of the show. We'll find out how that happens for Severance, but I'm still happy that there's room for that kind of thing sometimes because it's just fun, and I feel like it's
You need
my
a
kind of
you
thing.
need a theory show every couple of years, and this is very much a theory show where it's fun to be like
Yeah.
freeze framing and speculating and making predictions and getting those predictions
Mhm.
wrong. I mean, I wouldn't know about that, but you know, um,
Yeah. I'm ready to
you're
dive
in
into
for
the
a good
Reddit
time.
threads. I'm ready to dive into the
Yes,
Reddit boards. Like
but you
that's
shouldn't do
what I'm
that
feeling.
for another week.
Well, yeah, like as I go, of course, I gotta keep things. I do not want to get spoiled, of course. But yeah, it's time to figure out who gets severed and who gets levered, and
Your
capitalism.
ability to confidently use these terms you don't understand is like very impressive. I
Yeah,
I lack that confidence, but like the other day when we were talking about One Piece and you're like, "Are they ever going to get to the Grand Line?" I'm like, "Yeah, in 1999, like they've been there forever." Uh, but I
I
appreciate it. It adds a certain je ne sais quoi to Nobody
I
Leaves.
think I think it's just like a general lack of respect
Exactly.
towards.
I'm picking up on that.
I, I don't know if that's a good thing or something that I should be praised for, but it's fun. It's a fun little territory to play in. Um,
The
but
commenters
yeah,
really think it's fun, you know?
yeah. The commentators really respond well to me being very like just
Dismissive.
dismissive and callous and playing with these terms. I don't know, it's just like life is too short to like care about some of this stuff, man. It's all people are like, oh my god, like the current content climate's disposable. I'm like, everything's disposable, man. Like it's not
I don't know
Ghibli.
how to end this podcast. I'm just going to let you cook.
I'm just this is like the segment of the podcast every week where I go on a big manifesto about how everyone needs to just chill and
I didn't
be a
know I was
little
podcasting with
not
like Stephen A.
care.
Smith, but I guess I am, you know?
Who's Stephen A. Smith? Am I him?
He's the very opinionated guy on ESPN. You've seen his face before. I know you're not big into
Oh,
sports.
he's the dude. Yeah, like he always just has these like wild takes.
Yes,
He was
he's
running
known
for
his.
like office, right?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he ran for any political office that I know of.
I thought he did. Am I? If I'm okay, we gotta resolve Stephen A. Smith because I'm pretty sure he was running for office.
Look up
And
a
I
picture
saw
of him.
like, yes, this dude.
He ran for office. I don't. Now you know something about Stephen A. Smith. I don't.
I think it was like it's one of those like celebrity bits, right? Like it's not like a super serious thing necessarily, but yeah, I don't know. But because there was a video of him talking about like we gotta stop being mean to trans people, and I was like, whoa, why is?
Okay, well maybe you're correct because 1 month ago I would consider running for president of the United States, Stephen A. Smith. I don't know if you should take that
Yeah,
very seriously, but that is pretty funny.
yeah. I don't know how serious it was, but that was the latest news I got on him. Yeah, I don't know. I feel maybe spiritually akin to him of just being very like, oh, whatever.
The world would be
Society.
boring if there was not a Stephen A. Smith in the world,
Yes.
as well as a Mallory.
Yes, of course. And it would be boring if there were no Porco Rossos flying around. So
He's so cool. Mallory, why is the pig guy so cool? I want to be a pig man now.
he is cool. I love the loving depiction of just a big snorting. I like that he snorts when he laughs.
I do too. He laughs really scarily, and I think that's great. Like it's just like he laughs like a donkey or something.
He's like a villain. He's like ah ah ah.
Very teethy.
Good guy. We'll see like I'll see you back in the office.
Have a good night, Mallory.
Under Huff. Have a good day, Sam.
I'll see you on the severed floor.
I'll sever you later.